Good evening, and welcome to another scene in Edessa, The Dark Crusade, Season 2. This scene finds us at a very well-appointed estate in the noble's quarters, being one of the places that Gerard is known to haunt, and he has had a Ventru neonate reach out to him to give him some information that Gerard might find interesting or pertinent, and as such, he has been invited to this place, though whether or not it could be called his haven is another question. Anyway, there is a rather large guard presence on the grounds, and Asher will be led in through varying stages of security, and eventually is presented to a side chamber in which he will find Gerard.
As he's led through all the security, he does pay attention to the security, but has no idea how to measure it other than that it's well secured. As he continues, he finds himself in this room, and he bows before his elder and says, "Good night. I hope the city has fared you well the past few days. I'm sorry I haven't been in contact earlier and sooner. I myself have been busy."
So, for the record, this chamber is well appointed. There is a large ornate table set up, and there is a rather large map of the city and surrounding areas upon it. And but Gerard is not standing before it. He is instead off to the side, seated in a chair. And when Asher greets him, he will simply nod his approval of the greeting and the excuse, and says, "It's quite all right."
So I'm actually very happy, sir, that you've called out to me, because it's important that we connect. It's just been a while. It's been far too long. A few things have happened in my address. I've spoken to our Primogen. I've also had the chance to set a few things up. I've been allowed to change the location in which I was before, and as of now, I have noticed that we are currently under an attack by, I would say, a cultist, a group of individuals trying to use fire and other, I would say, aspects and elements of a certain goddess or god they believe in order to torment and kill us, to draw out, how would I say, to draw out a certain item they are looking for. So they're willing to burn out the entire city to get to that item, as far as I understand.
Gerard ponders this for a moment. An item?
A tablet of sorts.
I'm aware of this tablet.
This specific tablet has well, they have their mind set to gathering this tablet, because it is a one piece of a set of 5 or 6 pieces, as long as I remember, that is supposed to complete a certain prophecy for them.
And what do you know of these cultists?
Not as much, because I've never really been in contact with any of them. The information I give you comes from another source. The Setite, Sladin, who told quite a number of people within our city about these things as a large, I would say, proclamation of his wisdom when it comes to cultists and the like. How he specifically found all this out, for me, I don't. For us, I don't know. However, what he explained, he seemed to be very much believing in this, and what he has said makes sense when it comes to certain questions I had. For instance, I knew before he told us that there are 5 locations that harbor braziers. They are infused with some sort of dark magical thing that that is part of a larger ritual, and these braziers need to be destroyed in order to disrupt or stop the ritual. It had effect on the sky, as can be attested by Lady Madelain and Lady Irene, who both have a knack to see things that others can't.
Interesting.
Indeed. While he was proclaiming his vast knowledge of this here occult gathering, so to speak, he also proclaimed that it is due time that these things are to be destroyed, and he blames you personally for not having dealt with it yet. And that, I guess, that is you and your hounds.
Just a quick question: is the door closed?
This place is in the noble's quarters. It is an estate that Gerard
inhabits when he needs to.
Yeah.
Would Madelain been allowed in?
Sure.
If she announces herself beforehand, I don't see any. I actually wouldn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for the
She
sake
probably
of,
would. Yeah.
For the sake of a more interesting scene.
Indeed.
So she will be led in.
A retainer of some sort will come probably and say that someone is here.
She would be used to at this point the many layers of security leading inwards and then eventually into this chamber, which is then sealed behind her.
As you enter the chamber, you can see there is a large table, few chairs, very ordainedly furnished this room, and upon the table there is a large map of the city area.
Madelain will come in. Very deeply.
Distinctly French.
Obviously. Madelain curtsies deeply. Just says, my sheriff, it's good to meet you.
And you, Lady Madelain?
Asher.
Can you believe that the Setites think very poorly of my job as sheriff so far?
When it comes to the Setites, I would believe quite a bit of things. Let me guess, a certain Setite who is fortunate that he is indeed a snake, so that he can put his own head, well, places where a normal spine would not permit it.
Indeed. Lady Madelain was there when the Setite, as forementioned, made his acclamation. As well, she was there when I was on my escorting mission with Lady Irene as well as with Lady Madelain, to destroy or at least disrupt the second brazier.
Well, that is also why I am here. I'm glad you took the time to allow me to speak with you. I wonder, has Irene talked to you of this?
No, she hasn't.
Hmm.
Not yet, but she asked me to talk to Gerard.
Ah, I
And
see.
here we are.
Hmm.
How many of these braziers remain?
Three.
5.
Three as
No,
far as I know.
5 total, and 3 still there.
Hmm. And 2 have been destroyed
Yes.
by your hand?
No, 1 by our hand, and he points at Madeleine himself and mentions Irene. 1 by Irene herself, along with others. I do not know who was there.
Mem.
I see. Well, it would seem that we have managed to conduct ourselves admirably in this amount of time. What with my not knowing of these braziers at all, for instance.
Clan La Sombra always stands to the service of the prince and their sheriff.
So, do we know where the others are?
Irene and I will soon know, and we will seek them out and remove them as fast as possible.
We know the general area, sir.
Perhaps you could display them on the map for me.
Asher looks on the table for pins or symbols that he could place on the neighborhood areas where they previously had their thoughts about
Hmm.
that it could be there.
There are plenty of accoutrements for that purpose.
He will
Yeah,
he
but
will use 3 small items.
it
In
should be
rather
said.
general areas.
It should be said that whoever goes for these should be aware that fire is a very common occurrence. We were trapped inside the burning house. Not all of us agreed with such a situation.
Well, I know of at least one person with a strong disposition to fire. Perhaps he may be of use.
Perhaps.
So, just to clarify for me, a great many details of this affair are new to me. What exactly is the purpose of these braziers?
To aid in a ritual to attack us and the city.
In what way?
I believe that the purpose is to rip apart part of the city.
To reveal.
I think it is something that is buried under the city that they need access to, that they cannot easily access. They mean to cause a ripple or open up, reveal something within the earth. And that is my belief, anyway.
Do we have any notion as to how many of these braziers are necessary for the completion of this ritual?
I think the result would be, well, is already diminished. My approach would probably be, why take the chance?
Agreed.
Destroy as many as possible. Perhaps one of them, if allowed to exist, will still have an effect, but
Miss Irene specifically mentioned that the attack, as she deducts it, is directed at the palace.
Hmm. Well, we can't have that.
No, we cannot.
And by the placement, and she points to Justinopolis Mount and Riverside. By the removal of these two, we have moved the active braziers to the other side of the river.
Yep.
This will perhaps help. If it needs to be surrounding the palace, we have removed the entire one side of it. That is at least something to hope for.
But of course, many of us, including myself, and I'm sure I speak for Sister Madelain as well, are very much interested in removing the total amount of braziers, just to make sure.
Of course.
Which of these braziers would you say that you have the most certainty of its location that remains?
We have none specifically. We have 3 of a general area. Indeed, at the other side of the river.
I believe the easiest one would be Herod's Bazaar by the nature of the district. The 2 others are in slums. And very many places to hide, very many places that this could be.
Also very many places that large areas could burn down in case something happens.
Quite. But it will be easier to hide it.
I know. I agree with you that we should first start with the other ones. I was just adding to the fact that I'd rather learn more about the nature of the braziers and how to effectively destroy them before we go towards the areas where it's very hard to find them and maybe even harder to destroy them without many casualties.
Excellent. So, with that in mind, perhaps you could accompany Sister Madelain, Lady Irene, and Memnon to one of these braziers, so you all may learn of their construction and purpose. For me. That we may better interact with these others.
My intention is nothing but the same. My problem, however, lies not in the willingness to act upon this, but on the lack of experience with any sort of occult things. Last time we had Lady Madelain, who was quite well versed in occult knowledge, who could tell us what we were dealing with before we were brutally interrupted by the being or the figure that was defending the braziers. That was also the person that caused the fire.
And none of you were able to defeat this threat?
The threat escaped. We barely escaped with our bodies intact. But the effect was the same. The brazier was destroyed.
Well, then I'm certain that the 4 of you, again, will be able to repeat this task and this feat. Meanwhile, I shall take Aldrich and the Merchant of Bones and try to find one of the others in the slums.
Would you, by any chance, have for me a sturdy enough armor? Because last time I borrowed armor from Lady Irene, and if I had not had that armor, then I would have been certainly much more burned and destroyed.
I'm certain that I can convince our friend Memnon to craft you a set.
Wonderful. Then I'm looking forward to destroy more braziers for our city and our prince.
Excellent.
Speaking of infernalism, I have news for you, my sheriff.
What have you found?
Oh, well, remember the soiree you hosted some
I do.
time ago.
Yes.
The nobleman I befriended. He shot me after some time. Well, first of all, I must admit that he is not human, although we knew that. He was able to incur in me love, or something close to it. Not too dissimilar from presence, but different, more genuine somehow.
Hmm.
However, I've earned his trust, as I do with men, and he showed me something problematic. A summoning circle, a binding ritualistic circle for summoning things not of this plane.
Of the infernal variety.
Well, that is the question. I myself am a bit curious, but, well, he was truly convinced that what he was talking with was an angel. And he was truly convicted, he is still truly convicted that he is a good and God-fearing person. However, the circle, as far as I could see, was one you would bind the spirit to prevent it from attacking you once summoned. If you were truly serving an angel, you would not need such things. Perhaps this is due to him simply not knowing else how to summon, or more likely, he is fooled fully and truly by some demon to make him think that he is indeed talking to a servant of God.
You said that this circle is used for binding rather than summoning.
I have seen it once, for a limited amount of time. I believe it is a summoning circle. It is not necessarily binding in its nature. It was, again, depending on what kind of knowledge he possesses, there might be differences. It seemed, I am not entirely certain what it is, but it is close enough that I can make very many deductions. Whatever he is summoning in there is very powerful.
And where was this circle located?
In the basement of his noble's, well, noble house,
In which
within the
house
noble's
was that?
quarter.
Jog my
Say
memory.
again. Just say again.
What? In which house was this?
Oh, she will give you the location.
He meant which noble house? Like which family?
Oh God. Fuck. I can't remember.
Was
But
it was
Madelain
it
will
was it
tell
the
you.
was it the one in the scene, the novel scene that you went to?
Yes, and the one who Madelain told Gerard of that had like a shattered aura that was hard
Right.
to read.
But
It's
was
an
it,
up and coming noble house, but it's not really a noble house yet. That's why I have his name, but I don't think I have his family name because it's not a proper noble family yet.
so it's not Orbelian, which is the lady we talked to.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll worry about that later. Well then, that is troubling, I suppose, but perhaps not the most pressing thing facing us.
No, but you deserved to know, regardless.
And I thank you.
We should perhaps question him instead of destroying him, whatever he is, if possible. Perhaps he has kindred spirits in the city.
Perhaps so.
A decision I will leave to you, my sheriff. But I will inform you if something happens. If you wishes to show me, which I think you might. She smiles a bit. I am not certain I would prefer to go there alone to see this. If this is indeed an infernal entity, it will be able to tell what I am quite fast.
Yes. If it comes to that, we will decide what to do when the time comes.
Very well. But speaking of that soiree, Lady Obelian, I have looked into certain things. She is not of an immediate concern. Her, what shall we say, connection to our kind has been accounted for. It is a member in good standing.
I see. Well then, nothing to worry about.
Quite. Is Ulrich the Wise, is he is his schedule full, or is he available? I do believe that he would come in quite useful in hunt for these braziers.
I'm sure that he can find the time. As I said before, I was rather hoping that we might be able to discover one of the braziers in the slums. But perhaps it is best if we throw all of our resources into finding the one and then splitting to find the other two.
Maybe it would even benefit us all if we would make a joint strike at all three of them at once, either to lure different groups out and or to prevent all of us getting ambushed. So far, we have only the Setites' word that there are multiple groups at work. So far, me personally, I've only seen one shady infernalist. I would like to see more things confirmed.
And that would be the purpose of finding the brazier under the bazaar.
Yes, but I would like to find all three, then try to remove all three and see what happens.
Lady Irene told that she saw in a vision that these were 5 fires lighting the night of Edessa, and, what shall we say, disaster following. Could it be possible that these fires are the braziers themselves and we are helping by doing this? And that is my consideration, since the braziers themselves burn when destroyed.
Perhaps it is so, but such is the nature of visions and prophecy.
Why not remove the problem? I might have a way to take one of the braziers and, well, she smiles, put it in a place where even I will probably not be able to reclaim it.
Again, I would rather we find one of them and learn as much as we can about it. Secure it, as it were. At least for the time being. And of course, the others shall be dealt with in due course. I do not wish to delay. But proceeding in ignorance with things that we barely understand does not seem to be a useful endeavor.
Then, with your permission, we'll try and do it your way. Find the bazaar, root it out, and go for the next. And be quick about it.
I shall endeavor to do this as to best of my ability, and I will make sure Lady Irene gets on her feet as soon as possible. Would there be anything else, my sheriff?
There is. We've been having reports for some time now that individuals from outside of the city have been attempting to enter the city through various means. They have been dealt with by the Scourge forthwith, but their allegiance, all of them, is, well, for that of the city of Fiorna. I myself, with this knowledge, sent letters to my clanmates within that city, and it would seem that they are gearing up to make a move against us.
With what purpose?
With the purpose of absorbing us into their empire.
Right, alright.
Which
that sounds quite unhealthy for them.
I would agree, but I do worry. Because whether or not it is the actions of a madman or a genius, either way, it could prove to be destructive. Especially given it is a Cainite endeavor. From what I can tell, the mortals have very little say in the goings-on. This is not their idea. This is the prince's idea. Therefore, you should be on your guard. Do not be trusting of any strange Cainites.
Very well.
And in the meantime, I shall keep my eye on that situation. If they intend to come at us with mortals, well, I've routed a larger army before, and I doubt that that city is capable of mustering the numbers, but a conflict is something that I don't want. At least not one that's protracted and drawn out with all of these other issues facing us.
So, would you seek a diplomatic solution to hear from a emissary, or?
I don't believe that that is something that will be possible. But, again, simply a warning. Watch your backs.
Very well. My sheriff, Asher, it has been a genuine pleasure, but I must be going.
I will inform you of when I have the resources prepared to deal with this brazier in the bazaar. And you, of course, will join us.
Of course. And Madelain leaves.
Was there anything else you needed?
Many things. Wisdom, mostly.
That I don't know if I can provide.
I'm sure you can provide a measly neonate such myself with something I do not yet possess when it comes to knowledge. I would like to know more about where we come from as a, how would I say, as a line, as a family. I would like to learn more about us, Ventru.
I have some writings that you might find interesting. I'll see that they are delivered to you.
Wonderful. Then that's all I wish. And for now, I wish you a very happy night, sir. And Asher takes 2 steps away from the table, bows, and makes his leave.
And so, Gerard, after a few moments of Asher's departure, will eventually push himself to his feet and move over to the table and regard it thoughtfully. And with that, we will end the scene. Thank you, players, for playing, watchers for watching. Good night.